Hello, everybody. Welcome to um, podcast episode 188 of the Leon LeGray podcast. So, your host, as always, Leon here back. And first and foremost, I want to go out and say to everybody, uh, Happy New Year's. Well, belated New Year's, I should say, since I didn't make any recordings a couple days ago. And also, and to those that are listening to me on today, brand new episode here on January 19th of 2023. Welcome back and thanks for checking me out again. For those that have stuck with me for a very long time, I definitely want to say thank you everybody for being here. And I know this has been a long time coming, and I figured this would be a good time to start podcasting again. And a lot of things have been very, very interesting, tech related. And so, because of what's been happening, I know there's been good recent news I wanted to catch up with. And of course, I'm not going to talk about CEO or CES, the show that's been happening. That's just happened about a couple days ago, which actually the CES show happens every beginning of the year, between the January 4th and I think all the way through the weekend as well. Though I haven't been catching up because I've been following up a lot on what's been happening about me, what's been going on in my world, things of that matter too. But man, I have to say, there's been a very recent comeback. I just follow up sometime. In today's show, I wanted to talk about the digital disc, and I'm sure you guys know what this is, and that is a CD. The digital disc is making a comeback. Quite surprisingly, it is, and I think it is going to be very interesting because a couple years ago we saw the comeback of vinyl coming in, and because of that, a lot of people love the quality over quantity, and that's why a lot of people are actually coming back into it now. The same with CDs. The CD just gives a lot of personality and tastes that streaming services doesn't have. And then for one, here's the way I put it this way: the CD is such an interesting combat because back then when I started in the tech world around early 2000s and so on early on, and I was into video games and computers back in the day. I That's what I remember was using CDs. Well, not just CDs, VHSs and CDs, and then cartridge tapes. That's what I remember back in the day. And so now you look at CDs, I think it's coming back, doing a big comeback for a good reason. And I will definitely bring this up in today's episode. And to me, today's episode, I gotta say that this is going to be quite interesting for today's episode of Young Look Great Podcasts. And then next on the list, I'm going to go and talk about Tesla. We got some Tesla news, but we've got some bad news on the Tesla world now, which I think it is quite interesting where it's gone from being on the highs, now just dropping and dipping below. Ooh, this is going to be quite interesting because I got my personal take on Tesla, and it's not going to be a good one. And for all you Tesla fans listening to me out there, you better be prepared for yourself because it is not good what I'm about to say. Because I definitely have second opinions about getting a Tesla right now. So with that said, thanks for coming in and checking out the Leon Look Great podcast. Let us get started. Now, before we get started, I want to just go ahead and say a few good words to my sponsors. And today's sponsor is Zennies. And Zennies, as you know, I love them. Zennies is truly amazing. I think Zennies has been the go-to anti-blue light glasses, and I'm sure those that have heard me before talk about anti-blue light glasses, very useful to have even in today's modern age of computing. And this is something not everybody can really escape because everyone is going to be looking at a screen one way or the other. And I think having a blue light glasses is going to be very important to protect your eyes for the long term. And I say it and I mean it this way too, because you are going to need Zennies. get some Zennies right now, and I will have the link down of Zennies down below in the description details. That way you can get yourself a pair of your own. And if you click on the link, you'll end up supporting um, me as a podcaster. And that way you can also not just support me, you can, once you click on that link, you're going to be helping your eyes and down the long run. So check out some Zennies. Then next and not least, it is Grubhub. And if you are in the mood tonight to get some food, I recommend checking out and going and get some Grubhub tonight. If you want to get some food, go ahead and take a look up on the list of foods that's going on. And also, if you need to get some food, and if you're not in the mood to cook, whatever that may be, Grubhub is the way to go for tonight, for any occasion. So if you're just like, not in the cooking mood, or whatever that may be, go and get some Grubhub. And then last and not least, so I wanted to give out the last sponsorship, which is Blueberry. So Blueberry, I've been with Blueberry for a while, and this is probably now my third recording using Blueberry with this podcast. So Blueberry has been really good, but now what I can see with Blueberry, it's been absolutely great to be with them. And what I like is the fact that I can post up podcasts on not just any time, of course. You do have your limits, but Blueberry is actually a very good hosting providing service. So if you have a business and if you're looking to put up whatever episodes you want, that's something I recommend for businesses. Great to do that. And if you're just a starting podcast but want to try out your very first paid hosting provider, Blueberry is a good start. And just to mention as well that there is a limit on the hosting, but they will only do that for 1 month free. So if you don't like Blueberry, you can cancel it at any time. So check out Blueberry, and also check out the rest of the sponsorships down on the description below. Check it out now, and you will thank me later. Now, with that all said, let's get right into the show. Let's get to it. Now we are going to get right into this episode, and we're going to talk about something really interesting. And I know everyone has heard about the revitalization of the vinyls, that the revitalization with vinyls a few years ago. And now there was last year, this is something that I didn't follow up last year. And this big revitalization of CDs started around middle of last year. And so I didn't know nothing about this at all. And to me, what I did find interesting, and a lot of from the music heads out there, or the audio tune heads out there, that to me, they've actually made some good points about CDs. And to me, I think it was just talked about, but never was brought up to many people's attention. And for what I can see, CDs does bring such a nostalgic, but in a way, I think this does bring a lot of good conversations as well. Because for one, I don't think physical media it's gonna die off, and I don't think it's gonna die off right of an instant. Because for one, and here's where my take with CDs is gonna be, because I know you got the world of streaming, you've got many people that are doing actually very cool things when it comes to stream, which is streaming, of course. But here's my point on this, where what I like is that having a physical collection does bring some sort of personality, especially as a collector of music. If you are into rock music, if you're into EDM, alternative, rap, whatever, I think there are still things that bring life to your own character, which I like about CDs. In a way, the physical format, I don't think it's gonna die. I remember I was a diehard physical collector, even back in still around 2012, I never think I would ever surrender to streaming format or digital format. Well, however, I did make copies and I did share music to my friends that I knew back in high school, and well, and people that I knew that actually asked me to rip their personal music and whatsoever, which to me it just gives such a different, unique taste. What what you can do with these copies, and I used to do it all the time. Now, however, what I can see the arguments with the audio heads is which is quite accurate. For one, and this is what actually the take I've heard since late last year when I was hearing about CD revitalization was, for one, if you have a physical copy with you, then guess what? You own the copy. And let's say if an artist decided to take their music out over in Spotify, and let's say if that's the choice of streaming platform of your choice that you listen to music, then guess what? That artist cannot take your music away because you have the copy in your hands. You have the copy in your shelf, so that way your music is still going to be around. And for instance, there was that artist that decided to take his music off of Spotify because of the whole Joe Rogan situation. I believe a year ago, early last year, I think late 2021, if I remember correctly, because I know Neil Diamond was not taking of what Joe Rogan was saying, and so basically he was one of the artists, actually the first artist that took his music off of Spotify, and along with Joan Rivers as well. Now, I don't know about you though, because here's now I can see a dislike, right, for me, a dislike with streaming services, because for one, if you are a musician, I don't know, a starting musician, then if you're creating music that you've worked your butt off in the studio for many months or weeks and months trying to make music, but you put it up on Spotify, then guess what? You don't even earn so much when you're putting your music out there. I think you're only making a couple cents here and there for each listens that you get from Spotify, and that's where I'm getting with Spotify. And now that's for me. However, if I end up deciding to become a musician in today's world, you're not going to get that from streaming. Back then, way back in the day, if you were an artist back in the day, that was before streaming. You would make all these royalties from the art that you've created, and guess what? CDs. There was an argument with CDs that you've made a sell with your CD, you actually generate a lot more profit from that too. But of course, a lot of artists do make a lot more money when they did touring and selling merchandise. And this was the thing back then, and today it's still the thing now with many artists, because if you are an artist, you had to go and tour your ass off and get yourself out there and continue playing with hundreds and thousands of people live on every venue here in the U.S. or internationally, wherever you would tour in. And so with CDs, there are a little bit of a residual income that you can make, because for one, there's not also just the music, but you got the lyrics, then you got the jewel casings, which they do make a little bit of money than any artist would make in streaming. So that's the reason why I think the argument with streaming service, it's not just the CD part of it, which I think the CDs will be one of those things that will follow up as well. That will be a very big thing, because there's a lot of music listeners, but also I think my guesstimate as well, because if heads turns around and a lot of people decided I don't want to go ahead and continue on with Amazon Prime or HBO Max, then I do think that there's going to be a DVD and a Blu-ray revitalization down the future. Because, and there's my thing right there. When I hear news about this, especially with physical revitalization in media, a lot of people are going to just jump back into it, because Because for one, let's just say if people just had enough with paying streaming services, and let's say if for some reason you didn't like that episode on that streaming platform, and if you didn't like it, then you would just go and um get a DVD. But I think the whole medium is very different, because here's a take right there too. Now with like Disney Plus, Disney Plus, I'm sure it's making a lot of money, and especially with Amazon Prime, HBO Max, so on and so forth. And the other thing is this, is that if for some reason, if these if people it's this is my estimation, where a lot of people looked over now and start to see that the prices of streaming services to continue to skyrocket because of inflation, then a lot of people are going to end up going back into media and are going into red boxes because of how expensive it's gone right now. And I think we're going to definitely see media revitalization like never before. Now, to me, I don't subscribe to Amazon Prime or what's the other ones? HBO Max, Voodoo, so on and so forth too. Because honestly, that's just money that's just hitting your wallet each month. Nor do I ever subscribe to Netflix. Because honestly, when I remember subscribing to Netflix years ago, I think we're talking about 2010, 2011. I remember being a subscriber to Netflix was a lot cheaper. I was $10.99. That's what I remember. Now that was years ago, probably about a decade ago. Now, in today's world, now you got so much demand now. It's not just 4 countries: U.S., U.K., Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. Now you have Netflix watchers everywhere else now, which is quite insane. And the subscription basis is still strong with Netflix. Now, the other take I see with the physical media versus streaming platforms is that, for one, and my take is this, and I've talked this with a friend of mine I know that actually said something in his own words, and said this to me privately, and it says that for some reason, if Disney streaming service Disney Plus goes down or anything like that, then they may have to go back into resorting with physical copies like Blu-ray or DVDs. Because that's such an interesting take coming from someone that I know personally. Because honestly, you look at the Disney Plus, though, that's one thing. That's one thing to have physical media if anything were to go down. That's actually a good option to have. But let's say if a company is not profitable anymore, or if their services goes down, then you got physical media to back that out. And I think it is very interesting that someone that close to me have said this, because I do think that the next step will be DVDs and Blu-ray revitalization. And I'm sure that the Blu-rays hasn't died out yet, but the other thing I can see is that not many people, a couple years ago, people have stopped using physical copies for certain reasons, because either they didn't have a Blockbuster or Hollywood Video back then, and a lot of people had to revert to streaming services, which, for one, all you needed to do is have a streaming device such as a smart TV, Roku, Apple device, or whichever streaming device, and just stream it right from the right in your home, which is simple enough as well. And now going back with CDs, I do think that CDs will definitely come back because of the fact that we're still seeing a lot of people going back into it too, because they don't know if Spotify will still be around or Deezer will still be around in the next couple years, because we don't know if the profits on these companies are going to still be is still going to soar what they've done back, let's say, in 2015, 24 or 14, because I'm sure Spotify's been around about 12 years, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, again, that's still a big streaming streaming platform to this day. But again, we don't know how this is going to go because, again, a lot of people there are still people that stream a lot. They're doing podcasting, and if I understand correctly, now I think audiobooks are going to be another big introduction to Spotify. So as audiobooks, it is interesting what they've said about audiobooks because now the question is that how much income will this will make for the authors and for people that narrates as well. Now, I don't know how that's going to go because I haven't listened. Well, I'll take that back. Actually, I have listened to a couple of audiobooks in the past, but not so much in recent times. But I know recently the last audiobook I've played was Nevermore by Neil Gaiman. So that is an interesting thing that Spotify is going to do. But again, we still have audio CDs out there too, and that are still selling too because for one, a lot of people are out on the road, and a lot of people don't have time to sit around and read a physical book. So that's why you still have people still buying or still purchasing audio CDs because they while they're on the road, driving out on the interstate or whatever they're doing in long hours, then they could just pop in a CD and listen to their favorite book. So I think that is still pretty cool to have an audio CD in case if you're, or for whatever reason, if you're a traveler that travels all the time for work, then that's a must-have to have. And I can definitely see why people buy stuff like CDs, especially if you're a music listener or a audiobook person. That's one of the things I say CDs does come very, very useful. And the other thing I do think CDs will still be around is because if you are a language learner, if you are more of a listener that still needs help with pronunciations with languages and words, then go ahead and pop in a Pimsleur, and you can just go ahead and pop in a lesson each day of the week and get your lessons down, which I think it is still cool to have a CD in today's world. So I don't think there's nothing wrong with having a CD in general. So CDs still have a place in my heart for me, and I think for the majority of people as well. And just to read in Engadget's take what they've posted last year, and so just giving you the rundown, which here in this article, it says right here that okay, voila. So in which they wrote right there in 1982 when BBC's primetime technology show Tomorrow's World did a segment on a new musical format called this compact disc. The presenter skeptically asked whether there's a market for this remain to be seen. We all know what happened next, but even in the early 80s, the benefits of CDs should have been clear. High quality, non-degrading sound in a compact format. Oh, and you could even skip, shuffle, and repeat tracks, which in a pre-digital world truly felt like the future. The compact disc turns 40 this year. And by the way, this is an article reading from last year. So last year, that's when CDs turned 40. And there's always still already signals the format is prime for a mini revival for the first time in 17 years. CD sales actually went up and by almost 50% according to the RIAA's sales database. So it still hasn't died out, but it's just that there's still demand, but there's still people that are going in streaming because it's still convenient to find artists, because there's a lot of artists that are still going through streaming. But however, there are the listeners that they are still staying their old ways, such as the CDs. And the last time that I've actually purchased a CD was back in actually very recent, December 2022. That was actually a gift for myself because I wanted to support the artist, which is thrash metal, which I like that genre a lot. But I think it's pretty cool that I purchased the CD the first time in over, I would say about over 5 years, right, actually. So it was cool to even purchase a CD of my own and having to get the chance to get the feel of it too. But either way, the quality is still nice. With streaming, I find issues with streaming where when you're out on the road and let's say if a signal is not good, then that's where streaming is streaming actually gets hurt down, especially quality wise, because you actually got a level of quality where you got high, medium, and low. And let's say if you're in a dead end street and if you're getting very low signal, that's when the audio quality tends to suffer quite dramatically as well. And that's why I would rather have either a CD or have your audio downloaded in case if you're out on the road. So that's one of the things why I prefer the CDs than having to get my audio getting distributed via the internet and have it streamed there, because otherwise the audio gets cut off, either gets cut off or the audio quality is suffered pretty badly going things through the internet. Unless if you're in the city, you're not going to have problems at all getting a good reception. And with physical formats or having things downloaded to your device, it's so much better if you have it there, because that way you're not having any issues down the road. So that's my take on physical formats. Now, next, I wanted to go ahead and shift away the conversation from CDs now down to electric vehicles. Now, this time, we're going to talk about the EV maker Tesla. Now, this is an interesting story I came across. Now, I had no clue about the Tesla battery fire malfunctions after I was told about this from a friend. I would say early this week, and then I found news about battery fire malfunctions. So this was actually news I didn't even look upon this. Now, this is one thing I found this a bit surprising. Now, in the Korea Times, which says Tesla criticized for battery fire malfunctions, which is a headline on the Korea Times. And here, and now this is a picture I'm looking over here. A shorted Tesla EV suits on the side of the highway after catching on fire following a collision in Sigong Monday, courtesy of National Fire Agency. And so here it says on this article, which says Korean customers increasingly concerned about safety of U.S. EVs. So this article is written by Kim Yibon Bin, which I hope I've said this correctly. But anyways, here written by this person, which says Tesla Korea has found itself facing criticism following a series of high voltage battery failures. While one of its electric vehicles caught on fire while being repaired at a service center, jitters have been increasing among many drivers of the popular EV over the possibilities of their electric vehicles catching on fire. Industry officials and Tesla drivers said Wednesday the recent malfunctions seem to have stemmed from a problem with the battery management system, or BMS, a device that monitors the battery's current voltage and temperature in real time. To maintain optimum operating conditions, BMS is essential for all machines equipped with batteries, including EVs. The problems with Tesla's BMSs are known to occur mainly on the 2018 through 2021 models, including the Model S, Model X, Model 3, and Model Y. Tesla conducts over-the-air updates, also known as OTA, to check a car's condition and provide functional improvements. Drivers are notified with the error code on the center display when a problem occurs. The battery-related error is becoming a problem is the code BMS A066, and the message maximum charge level and possible driving distance may decrease is also displayed. The vehicles with the messages suffered from a maximum mileage decrease from 400 kilometer to 100 kilometer per charge. Other error codes also pop up if the driver does not take action, such as BMS A079 can not charge. BMS A029 reduces maximum battery charge level. BMS underscore W073 cannot start vehicle. And BMS W123 car may not reset. Ouch. That is terrible on its own. Yikes. So continue on in reading in this article. These errors are not only found in Korea, but have happened overseas. In fact, several posts related to battery errors appear on Tesla Motors Club, an online community of Tesla owners from around the world. I have the Ohmmu 12 voltage battery installed and have gotten the replacement message they sent me, then a new battery as soon as I told them about the problem, along with a return label. However, the new battery still gets the same warning. And continuing on this article right here, 2022 Tesla Model 3 LR 12 voltage lithium ion battery failure. 3-month old 2022 Model 3 LR with 5 kilomiles display messages. Another member wrote, currently Tesla Korea is not revealing the cause of this error, but if the problem occurs, its service centers replace the faulty battery with a new one. In addition, the Tesla recently went up in flames while it was being checked at the service center due to a battery problem. A large number of comments about Tesla battery problems have been posted on the website of the Automobile Recall Center at the Korean Automobile Testing and Research Institute since November last year. So this is going to be a huge problem. Now, I look at the whole thing with Teslas, and there's always going to be arguments between the ICE cars and electric. And I want to go ahead and bring this out of my chest right here too. I've really got to put this out because, for one, I don't know why this is not talked about, this article, everywhere else, and which I think it should be talked about. And Lord knows if I rode one of these things, and let's say, God knows if something happened to me along the road, and this, for some reason, this is out. This vehicle was out there and released out in the public, and let's say, God forbid, I get if the vehicle goes out on flames, then the Tesla is 100% responsible for the batteries, 100%. So how come this is not talked about in other outlets right there too? I mean, this is going to be a huge concern, especially for the journeys of EVs. Now, I'll put it this way. Tesla is not the only EV in the game. Now, I understand that that people are talking about how great the Teslas are and how much people praise on the Teslas. And there's so much of the whole cult of personality on Elon Musk. Huge cult of personality and how much of a figurehead he is. And to me, he is no god by all means. But the problem I find with the persona or the character with this is this, for one, the batteries will last long. It will never ever happen. Well, guess what? I have to say that I think the whole Kool-Aid of Tesla is still gonna eat people's brains in, and still gonna. And a lot of people are still gonna eat this up too, and thinking how great the Tesla is. Nothing will ever happen to this company. Well, I have to tell you something right now. Even this week, I've read in other articles, especially, even though Tesla is not just an automobile company, they are responsible for other projects, especially like the solar, especially with the solar panels they're doing. the power generation. Then you got Tesla bots. It's still in the works right now too. Now, my thing about this is that, let's say, what happens if Tesla ends up becoming a whole monopoly, and a lot of people will end up eating up all Tesla this, Tesla that. There's nothing wrong with that company that will ever going to happen. Well, I have to say that a lot of people are absolutely wrong, and that's why I think there's going to be a lot of other automobile companies and other solar panel companies are going to start stepping ahead of its game, because I do think that slowly and surely a lot that Tesla will end up losing ground at some point down the road. Look, I'm sure that Tesla was ahead of the game around 2012 when that started. And well, actually, I believe it started much earlier than 2012, but still, when that company started out, it did had its struggles at the very beginning until it started to develop like the early prototypes of Teslas. But now we're seeing more of the downfalls of Teslas slowly creeping in. Because here's my thing with Elon Musk. How I can see this, it's going to be quite worrisome for Tesla, and I'm sure that a lot of people that have invested in the company for a long time are going to see that, well, I don't think we're going to see Tesla go down anytime soon. I think a lot of people will end up being wrong when they find out that their favorite automobile company or their favorite EV company, solar company, will still have its turning point down the road. And I'm sure there are automobile companies that have gone through the same issues as well, but there are companies like that. They've definitely have seen other companies gone from being the high, going from being the low. But if things are not addressed soon, I do think it will hurt the Tesla brand, and just the representation of Tesla alone will end up going to slump down even more because of so much that's been happening. And I do think further down the road, we're going to see a lot more car companies are going to end up having more options for EV options than just ICE cars. But my thing is, though, I do think we should have at least both ICE internal combustion engines and electric cars, because that way at least it's going to give people choices than just giving people just one choice of this or that. I mean, no question that you're going to have EVs it's going to slowly replace cars. My take on this is that I only see Elon Musk as an influencer, more so than a car inventor or the invention of Tesla. I just think it's just getting into people's head really, really fast. And my question about the whole thing is, I do think it's still getting to people's heads, and people definitely a lot of people put this guy on the pedestal so badly. And the fact is that I do think there's going to be more scandals and headlines about Tesla that not many people will know about. And I think a lot of people are going to see that maybe I think I'm just going to go ahead and step away from Tesla for a little bit and maybe come back when things are fixed and addressed. And especially when reading articles coming from the Korea Times, you know that people are just not going to just jump in, because I'm sure there have been other articles about this, that there's been Teslas that have gone and have catched on fire. So, and there's always the argument with the electric car guys have said that, well, guess what? Who goes on fire? Internal combustion engines. There's people, and there's always arguments about this. Yeah. About, look at this internal combustion engine, it goes on fire too. It does much worse than EVs. I don't think it's true. First of all, batteries. Last time I've checked on a battery, they've catched on fires as well, and if you not read the warning label on a battery, um, batteries do catch on fire. For those of you who don't know, it's so fucking stupid to see how how ignorant some people are, especially with the EV people, because that's why I find it ironic, especially how energy efficient it is and how amazing it will be to have an electric car. While it is true, I think there are arguments with uh, why I am against getting a Tesla now. Looking at articles like this, because for one, anything can happen with an EV. For those that don't know, or those who are now aware, listening to me right now too. Oh, speaking of, what is this? Oh, okay, now we've got something on the Shosun Libo, which is a Korean paper, the Shosun.com. So I'm going over this as well. Now, with the issues that happened since last week on the 11th, now we're seeing Tesla slashes prices as sales falter. And now this is where we are headed right now, especially with Teslas. And which here it says Tesla has slashed the prices of its EV cars in Korea for the first time in 2 years because sales have been declining. The prices of the four-wheel drive Model Y long range has been cut from 96.64 million won to 84.99 million won, which I don't know how much on the conversion rate that is. So I will have to calculate on my own time. The Mode Y performance prices fell from 104.73 million won to 94.73 million won. The standard rear wheel drive Model 3s by 6 million won to how much is that? 64.34 million, and by the same amount of the four-wheel drive version to 88.7 million. Last year, Tesla offered a discount for a limited period, but this is the first time since February 2021 that it cut the prices of new models. Declining sales are the main reason. According to the market tracker, Car CU, the Tesla's sales in Korea fell 18.3% last year to 1457 cars. The waiting period for Tesla EV used to be more than a year, but now there is no waiting list for some models at all. Tesla also slashed its price tags by 13.5% in China, which accounts to the one-third of its total sales. The Chinese government scrapped subsidies for EVs with the start of this year, while rivals such as BYD are rolling out increasingly competitive cars, so Tesla sales are expected to decline further. Tesla factories in Shanghai delivered only 55,796 EVs, down to 44% from the previous month. The U.S. EV maker even halted production there from December 24th until last Monday due to morning inventory. Meanwhile, other Tesla Model X caught fire in Seoul due to a battery-related abnormality known as thermal runaway last Saturday. According to the driver, the car stopped in the middle of the road shortly after a warning sign, and he had it towed to a service center in Sisu-dong that is closed on weekends. Shortly after it arrived at the center, it exploded. After 65 firefighters and dozens of fire engines rushed to the scene, but the blaze took nearly 3 hours to bring under control. Unlike conventional cars, the door or hood of Teslas will not open once the power shuts off. Holy shit. Holy cow. And so this is what is going on right now in tech world. Now you can see that there are now going to be problems with Teslas right now too. And while you see um, issues like this, makes you wonder: is it worth getting an EV car? And I knew from the start that I would never get an EV. One, previously I've said before that it is expensive, and I always foresee Teslas having some sort of issue with their problems, which for me, however, I could not trust an EV. And there are other issues. I've had arguments with Teslas, especially being all smart and everything. But I do think that it still has issues. It still has issues because of performance of the battery. That is why I never bought into the whole EV thing in the first place. Because I still think that once you see a company have its own issues, there are going to be other makers, especially following up on this, like the Lucid, the McLaren, and I believe there are still U.S. manufacturers or U.S. companies such as Chevy and Kia. They're going to follow up creating something like the EVs of their own, and then a lot of people are going to see, hey, now we got EV competition now with other car manufacturers. So this isn't just Tesla now in the game, right there too. The only kid in the block. You're going to have other car manufacturers, and that is the truth. And the way I look up upon the Elon Musk of the world today, which reminds me of what reminds me of him, right, throughout this present day. And here he reminds me of John DeLorean back in the 80s when the DeLorean car was made. And I remember people said the same thing, how the DeLorean was going to be the future car of the vehicle future car, right? What happened to the DeLorean back then suffered through many issues, but because of internal issues with the GMC. And to me, I think we're going to see that with Tesla right now, since now we're going to see much more controversies. Because also, I don't even think Elon is so focused on with Tesla right now, too, because he's now going through being the CEO of a social media company called Twitter. That's why. And plus, he has so many companies that he's trying to maintain, is that I think he will end up losing focus over other companies that he's trying to maintain and now focusing on Twitter. I just don't think it will work on his advantage because he's just going through things all at once. Because either how you see it, a visionary or a liar, now we're definitely seeing issues because of batteries going up in flames. How would that make me feel as a consumer jumping in and trying out the Teslas? And I would say that the last time I've tried a Tesla is when I was trying out the Tesla to practice on my driving. And guess what? Even though I love the Teslas, I've tried it out. But now I look at it this way, I don't even want to go in a Tesla and expect that I would be safe again on the road. Now reading articles such as the Korean Times and another Korean publication, knowing that I will be safe on the road. And now let's say if anything were to happen to my roommate's car, and let's say if I ride on that Tesla once again, along with his vehicle, and something were to happen, God knows if that goes in flames, or if the power shuts off on that Tesla, if I cannot get out of that vehicle, oh my God, that will be a scary time for me one day. That I will never step into an EV again because it's all electrical and I cannot press the button to get off that vehicle because if any wirings or any shortage were to come to an EV. And now my final commentary on the whole story behind this is that, for one, this is a huge story. I do think a lot of people aren't talking about it because they got a lot of people's butts our heads are up their asses now because the people are now looking over what the real issue is with the company. I do think there are going to be a lot of scandals with not just Elon Musk, but the company itself, with Tesla. Even though it promotes being all green friendly, all electric and everything. But the truth of the matter is that now, as a reader that keeps up with this stuff, I will not step in a electric vehicle again because of this, because of these scandals. And I'm sure that I'll have a roommate that'll talk me out and say, "Oh, don't worry about this. This doesn't happen all the time. You gotta understand these things do happen." Blah blah blah. But I just don't buy it because how will the consumers react to issues like this when people find out about these stories? I mean, this is a big story. You can't just shove these stories out off the side and say, these things don't ever happen like this all the time. Now, this is the reason why I'm actually changing my mind from getting an EV early on. And also, you do have EVs are becoming big right now in other manufacturers because, for one, it is I do believe it will be energy efficient. But you gotta look at it this way. My other conclusion is that probably instead of people buying gas all the time, there are going to be other fuel alternatives such as nuclear energy. So nuclear energy will be big, and I just don't think a lot of people will understands nuclear energy. Even though people have made biggest fears about nuclear energy, but I just don't think nuclear energy is the biggest fear. What people have thought of to be this huge boogeyman. I don't think so at all. I do think there are going to be other alternative fuels such as gasoline, because I do still think gasoline is still dangerous, and if anything were to happen to vehicles like that, and of course you'll be set on fire along with that too. So of course it doesn't happen all the time. I do still think that driving is still safe, but I don't think people are very bright with where they get their information on, because I still think that people get very incorrect information on certain issues like fossil fuels, nuclear energy, so on and so forth too. I just don't think people are bright enough to find these things, because the way I see it too is that if you see a scandal, you've got to talk about it. And I can assure you that for one, I was quite positive about Tesla when my roommate talked about this early on around 2020, 2021. But now I see it a whole new light on EVs. And that's why I am starting to look at this at a much bigger picture now because of this too. So that's why I don't ever see myself to be a big fan of Tesla. And this whole fandom is starting to get into people's heads very quickly. Like I've said before too, do your research, know what you're purchasing before you get it. Once you see the issues with vehicles, and if this has happened to you too, I hope that this becomes very public really fast, because if you know that you hear issues like this in South Korea, you're going to see issues in other countries that are going to have many issues with electric vehicles, because there are still faults in electric vehicles that people do not understand. But with that said, thank you for taking the time to listen in on the very first podcast of 2023. And I do hope you enjoy it. Hopefully I can get into more electronic and computer news some point down the road really soon, because right now I'm trying to do as much as I can with this month and getting things out of the way. But with that said, thanks for everyone for taking a listen here on the latest podcast of the Leon the Great podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more on the way. Have yourself a great weekend coming up and enjoy it. So with that said, peace out. I am done. Hey guys, one last thing. If you enjoyed today's podcast, be sure to subscribe to me on your favorite podcast platforms. I am everywhere, such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, you name it. So make sure to follow me and subscribe to your platforms of your choice. Thanks again for taking a listen of the new episode of 2023. Take care. So long. Have a good day.